So I'm here with Dr. Christine Smith. So much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about, so this will be fun seeing where it goes. But I think it's worth at the outset just asking you to introduce yourself a bit, some of your background, some of the things you're sharing.
Sure. So I am a holistic functional medicine doctor, and I say that because it's the simplest way to say all the things that I do. Background is actually cognitive neuroscience, and then I traveled the world for a while, kind of deciding what to do for graduate school because I originally thought I was going to go to med school,
Hmm,
and then I thought I was going to get a degree in psychology. But I've always had this interest in how the mind and body relate to each other.
hmm,
And I ended up going to chiropractic school because it is a
interesting.
degree that is founded in touch and life force, the flow of life force.
Hmm,
And that was more aligned to me as a foundational model to study within that would then allow me to apply everything I wanted to do, which that lets me do physical touch, nutrition, lab testing, a lot of the things that I could do in conventional medicine, but just not having it be prescription based. And I actually like being a non-prescriber, and then I'll refer clients to other doctors when they need prescriptions. To me, I believe healthcare profession is about collaborating with our colleagues
I
and
love that.
realizing that there's different tools for different things and moving between them based on what's needed in the case. So I spend a lot of time helping people correct the physical body, the mental body, chemical body. And to me, that's
Hmm.
holistic care, but there's just not a degree in holistic care.
Oh yeah, that's interesting to hear about. I just had a class with another doctor, Dr. Affinity, and she's a holistic medical doctor, and yeah, all the terminology gets a little confusing, but it's interesting that there you're wanting to see if you want to get a degree in, and chiropractic made sense to you. Holistic.
Yeah, I like chiropractic. It's very true to its roots. It's very authentic. And again, it's just an extrapolation of knowledge, just like any foundational degree is. So I am looking for practitioners. I do not really look at what their degree is. I look at the continuing education that they do and the types of questions that they ask. And that tells me who they actually are. Someone has a degree and their continuing education is only in one area. Uh, I don't find that as relevant to the real
Mm,
world personally.
yeah, it's such a good point. And I have a lot of people reach out to me, like emails like, I'm interested in psychology and being a therapist. I'm looking at this school and that school, and I actually added some sections on my website to like just answer some of those questions from my point of view. But I think our world is moving on one extreme, kind of credentialism, like, oh, they went to Harvard, let's listen to them, and that kind of thing. And then on the other end are, there's all the social media influencers. Maybe they never went to school, I don't know. But I people are there's so many amazing trainings out there and opportunities for education online, virtually, or in person, but just there's all many alternative paths. And it's kind of a hard lesson for me, but I graduated at two master's degrees, one in studies, one in psychology and mental health. And I just realized like I want to get additional training, and so some of the things I've done after official school have actually been most impactful in how I actually work with people that I found actually helpful. But it can be kind of what's the word, disappointing, dispiriting to spend all the money in higher education and then be like, what did we do? What am I doing now? Like,
I was
it's like
just
zero classes on business, zero classes on economics, zero classes on marketing. Um, and in my particular masters of psychology, they talk about trauma. And they're like, oh, trauma, that's the root of so many mental health issues, but we're not going to talk about that here because it's too sensitive, or we don't want to get too. So I've done these trainings on to become a trauma-informed therapist, learn somatics in the body, but I didn't directly, honestly, get that from grad school, which seems like ridiculous.
oh, I'd say about maybe like 50% of what I do, I learned in grad school. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine from grad school whom has a doctorate and his girlfriend who has a JD, and neither one of them are practicing their professions. So two doctors not using a doctorate,
Yeah.
which I find fascinating. So I think the certifications and the degrees have limitations to them,
Hmm.
but I do think they can be foundational knowledge that look at things from many perspectives, you have to realize that it's a training to teach you how to look at things from many perspectives. And if you get stuck in the perspective of the training, you're not applying what the training has taught you.
Yes.
So it's like you have to broaden your horizons and realize that degree or certification is really just the foundational skeleton of whatever you're doing. And it's your job to fill in that skeleton and blossom out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really sounds like I like the way you think about your path with that. Like take some time, reflect on what you want to do, and really think about it. Talk to people who've done it. Actually, look at the financial costs, and not assume that a fancy degree from a good university that you're taking a tough student debt on. Not assume that's the path to succeeding financially. Like it's real debt. I mean,
It
that's
can be.
it
And
can be,
also, a
but
lot
yeah,
of the most successful people I know are entrepreneurs who didn't really go that path, but just
yeah,
depends on what you're looking to do. But I do appreciate, like you had mentioned, like, well, like, are the influencers who never went to school the answer? And it's like, there's plenty of people out there right now who are speaking on things that maybe they haven't fully educated themselves on. So I tell people to take everything with a grain of salt, look up
yeah,
multiple resources, including when you hear stuff from your doctor, like, still get a second opinion and make your own opinion. Like, yes, you can seek an expert, but know that there are no gurus, and just
mm,
really figure out a way to critically think your way through things while educating yourself along the way. And even if someone can get like some foundational degree, if I look at all their different areas of study and they've studied more deeply than someone with a degree, then I'm going to trust their opinion. So
yeah,
for me, it's what have
yeah.
you studied?
Mm. Yeah, what have you studied, who you studied with, and you get a sense of someone when you connect with them and talk to them and look at their what they're sharing. And
And we used to study under mentors and do mentorships, and
mhm,
that wasn't necessarily a degree. It was just learning from another human. And
right,
some of the best body workers I know have studied masters, and that's how they.
right, absolutely, yeah. Well, good. So you've been inspired with a more holistic vision for health, wanting to help people on a deeper, more fundamental level. Is that fair to say?
I think it's the only thing that health actually is. You do health pieces. Health is
Hmm.
the holistic self.
I agree, 100%. Actually, I was just had a consultation with someone earlier today who's looking for therapists, and we were talking, and in my intake process, I check in with uh, fundamentals of health and wellness, including sleep, diet, nutrition, exercise, your relationships, social life, and an intake process that gets this piece there and gets people thinking about them. And I'll, often, in the first time I meet with someone, I'll share about the importance of sleep because it's such a huge impact on our emotions, our regulation, our physical health, and our mental health. That's another big frustration with the world of mental health and psychology. Like so many things in our society, it's kind of sectioned off, and guidelines around, as a therapist, I'm not supposed to give um, advice around supplements or nutrition. So I need to be a little bit careful around that in terms of the legal stuff. But the reality is, it's also interconnected, and especially, and I've talked about this on the podcast, our gut, gut health, and where a lot of our serotonin and dopamine neurotransmitters are created, our heart health. It's also interconnected. More and more people are realizing that, but there are systems in our society where tend towards these specializations. And I was listening to this conversation earlier today with kind of criticizing the American health industry, whatever you want to call it, and how tremendous financial incentives send people to as many specialists as possible, and that's how they're making the most money. And so the financial incentives and what's actually serving people are not in alignment, right? That's fair to say. And if you specialize, you study like one specific thing, like one particular type of cancer for years and years and years, but you don't know anything about nutrition, right? It's like, and that's not uncommon. So my brother, I was going to bring my brother is really a heart educated doctor. He's a cancer doctor, and he told me in all his years of medical school, it's like 10 years of like intense education, like he sacrificed a lot of respect for him. He had one afternoon lecture on nutrition, and that blows my mind.
It was a big reason that I chose the chiropractic route, is because we get significantly more neurological and nutritional education in the medical school route. They get more obstetrics and pharmacology and chemistry, but we actually get more diagnosis, more radiology, more neurology, and more nutrition, and more
Awesome.
somatic learning.
Okay, great.
So that was like I looked at we actually have more class hours. MD students do. They have more residency
I
hours.
didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of
Mm.
people don't. So for me, I looked at like the differences in the education, how I'd be able to think, and that's why I chose that one. Also, a lot of respect for medical doctors. I have many friends that are medical doctors,
Mhm.
DOs as well. DOs are kind of like a nice medium where they have a little bit more holistic and wellness education. But
Mm.
I really feel because they're caught up in a model that is not educating them in that.
Mhm.
And then you have to do all this continuing education to maintain your license. And you're already running into the ground with your hours anyway, trying to family on top of that, and you have
Yeah.
like no time for yourself. And if you're getting all of your continuing education hours that are required to maintain your license that are being funded by pharmaceutical companies, and you don't have any time to go educate yourself on nutrition, and you're just like caught in the hamster wheel. And
Mm.
so I think a lot of them are very well intentioned, but you're right, they don't get nutritional education. It makes it really hard to understand the whole of it. So I
Yeah.
think it's very enlightened to look at it that way. When you called it the health industry, I think that's the right word for it right now. It
Yeah.
got industrialized during the industrial age, like in the early 1900s, and
Mhm.
it changed it substantially. Whereas we used to have a lot more homeopathic nutrition and holistic medicine in the textbooks, and the textbooks have changed dramatically in the last few decades.
Mm. Yeah, that was something we were talking about before we started recording a bit. So,
Hmm.
yeah, such a big subject. We're in a capitalist society that emphasizes profit, and that makes sense. I think it's really a matter of incentives, aligning financial and other incentives with what is actually serving people and serving our health collectively and individually. And when those incentives have gotten so out of whack, and so then we're having all these problems that we're having. So,
Well, and I really wish it would go back to like a more competitive model, which is kind of like the entrepreneur model, right? Because then you find what's right for you. And I tell people all the time if they come into the clinic in the way that I work, which is more an educational model and teaching people how to understand their body and their physiology, if my model's not right for them because they don't care and they just want to have their symptom go away, then that's okay. I don't need to be the practitioner for them. But that leaves space for the
mm-hmm.
people that come in that really want to understand their physiology more and be able to apply it in a sustainable way. But I think we really need to break this brainwashy paradigm that like healthcare should be free because we used to bring a chicken to the shaman. Like it's never been free. So like there was,
Meaning that in the past, like if you were going to see a shaman for healing, you'd bring a
yeah,
gift or some
like if
okay.
you were in your tribe, you would bring an offering to the
Yeah.
person who was going to give you a service. So I think that should be any service in our life. Like we
Mm-hmm.
should always have some kind of energetic exchange with it that is in a well-intentioned way, or understand that there's going to be some kind of karmic exchange later. But if people can understand that their health is their responsibility and that they can't just expect to be fixed for free when they make a bunch of terrible life choices, like, I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way, but I'm going to
Mm.
challenge them to make their health their responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, I really appreciate that. Here, I'm just gonna take one moment to change this setting here, and then we'll.
Sure, while you're pausing, I'm just going
Yeah,
to.
still, how do I do this? I'm worried that I just want to make sure it keeps recording this whole time. Lock screen. How do we do
Sometimes if you
this?
plug it in, that'll make a difference.
Yeah, maybe I should do that.
Then it doesn't like go to sleep.
Start screensaver. Here, this should fix it. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, we're good. Um, yeah, that's such an interesting point. It makes me think about, because I've studied Buddhism and spent time in Buddhist cultures, and part of the this was also an issue in ancient tradition of Buddhism around money and offerings and the meditation teachings, the Dharma, spirituality. It was meant to be accessible to everyone, and there's also this tradition of giving a gift. There's a tradition of if there is like a meditation master or teacher to ask them for teachings, so they're not, at least in theory, they're not like out on the street corner like trying to sell their thing. It's a very different society in that way, but there was that energetic exchange. And I think if we look at money as energy, um, there's something really profound and important about that. And as beautiful as the idea of making everything free is, I think I'm kind of coming to new understandings around this for myself. If you offer something for free, it obviously something is valued, and there's a huge potential for taking advantage of it. And
I've
there is a
given a
role.
lot of free
Yeah,
healthcare and people do not get better.
yeah, and I've given free therapy sessions and been in more community health clinic situations, and I've seen that. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because people are not invested in the process.
Hmm.
And if and I find this in the conventional system, right, where it's like you go to your doctor, you get a pill, and then you expect the pill to fix you, and then you don't think about what you're doing anymore, and you continue to have your bad diet and never exercise and not sleep and be angry all the time, and you don't address any of those things, and then you wonder why you're not getting better. And it's because you're not invested in your own healthcare. And so whether it's money or whatever, I'm talking about that energetic investment. And that's what I find is like if everything's given away for free, people are not making a conscious decision to energetically invest in themselves.
Yeah, you've got to make effort and care and take care of yourself. And
Well, there's an old saying in health too of where attention goes, energy flows, and
yes,
blood follows.
I love that.
I love that saying.
Say it again. Where attention
Where
goes
attention goes, energy flows, and blood follows.
and blood follows. Yeah,
So it's like if you want something to heal, you have to pay attention to it
yeah,
and give it intention
yeah.
of where you want it to go. And then I remind doctors all the time the power of their language. And if you just focus on all the possible side effects and bad outcomes for someone, and you never tell them what you're actually envisioning for them, then the energy to heal isn't going to be right. Like I had some dental
Yep.
work done at one point, and I asked him, like he was telling me, well, if the tooth is sensitive and this, then this might happen, and then we'll have to redo this. And I was like, what do you want?
Mm,
And he had to think about it.
sure.
And he was like, oh, well, I want the nerve to heal under the limestone and there to be no problems. I was like, great, that's what I'm going to focus on.
Mm, hmm.
If it gets temperature sensitive, I'll call
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
Instead of these 15 different bad things that might happen that haven't happened. So I often
Mm.
tell people, I'm like, don't get 8 steps ahead of yourself. Just focus on the next step and
Yeah.
focus on the direction you want to go.
I've been doing that more with people I work with. Um, yeah. What do you want? Can you imagine, visualize a life of feeling better, being happier,
A
right?
lot of
Because
people can't. They don't know what it looks like for them.
right, right. So that, but it's worth doing and putting some effort there and trying it out and playing with it and almost like a muscle you can build.
I think it's essential.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's a role for effort and taking responsibility and taking care, and it just makes me think about if you own something yourself, you tend to like take good care of it, and you'll clean it, you make sure it's running, and you put money into it. And if there's something that someone just gave you or that's just freely available, there is a tendency to not care for it as much. And that's just kind of the reality that we're in, I think.
It's like when you see all the Uber scooters that are just like thrown on the side of the road
Yeah, that's a good
instead
example.
of like
Yeah,
someone actually like taking their scooter, taking care of it, and like locking it up.
yeah,
And so it's just like people are much less intentional with things that they don't consider their responsibility. And that goes for
yeah.
your
Those
health.
the scooters get beat up.
Yep.
It goes for your health for sure. Let me think. Well, there's a lot of things I want to ask you, but do you just want to share a little bit about some of the work you're doing, what people are coming to you for, what you see is really helping people, what you think is needed?
Sure. People come to me for a lot of stuff. I have been told by many practitioners, like, oh, you need a niche, you need to specialize. And I'm like, that's just not how my brain works. So if I
Mm,
had any specialty, it's cellular health and
okay,
understanding like how to make the cell function correctly. And because if you can heal the cell, you can heal anything because everything's made of cells. Um,
it's very logical.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I prefer logic. I prefer very like sound ancient logic. So I'm working on something right now to make functional medicine more accessible because I have a decent following online, and the biggest things I get is that it's too expensive, it's not accessible, it's confusing, it's too much. So I'm like, okay, well, how can I give this to people in bite-sized pieces? Because if someone comes in for a one-to-one appointment and they want something fixed, I'm going to give them a lot of information in that first appointment, and then a lot of people get overwhelmed, and
Mm,
then they'll cancel their appointment, and that's fine. But if I'm going to do a functional medicine process with somebody, I need them to like actually want to do it and to
mhm.
care about their health more than I do. If I care about your health more than you do, it's probably not going to be a good one-to-one partnership. And this was like an ego death that I had as a practitioner because I used to want to save people, and now I just want to teach people how to save themselves because I think that's more sustainable.
I like that. I appreciate that a lot.
Very
Yeah.
much so. And I think
Mm,
our conventional model is oriented around saving people, and I think that's why it doesn't work is because people are never taught how their body works. And then they're always turning to a savior for help. And it's a hierarchical model. And it teaches them to be victims and to be helpless.
Mm,
Versus if I can teach people
mhm,
how their physiology works, they can feel empowered and then they know what to do and they know how to respond. And then they can just touch in when they need some support. And I
mm,
think that's much more sustainable. But when people come in, like if someone was coming in for one-to-one care, I just educate them about a bunch of physiology anyway and how their body works. So it's like, okay, let me put this in a place where people can go at their own pace because it's overwhelming in an appointment. So I
yeah.
started making online courses, and all of this has come as a response to what people need,
Mm,
right? And it's
mhm,
all come from people asking for things, me being like, okay, let me make a video on that. Let me make a video on that.
mm,
And then that way they can go at their own pace. So I've now started the Wellness Evolution community. It's just wellnessevolutioncommunity.com, and it's a place where people can come and they can just hang out for some free calls, or they can watch my entire YouTube channel about me and other functional medicine doctors discussing every topic under the sun and what they could want to know about their bodies. And then once they're past the free model, like, okay, I'm ready to go a little bit deeper, I have some more intentional questions, then there's like a lower level community that they can join that gets them some more calls that are deeper and more intentional with deeper education, as well as a bunch of recorded programs that they can access and they can go at their own pace. And then if they want to dive deeper than that, now I've started to build some group programs because I have found people heal better in community. They
yes,
heal much
yeah,
faster in community.
yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of research on this. And
Mhm,
so it brings people into a place where they can realize that they're not alone.
mhm,
And, I do this more as a consultant than my doctor position. So I'm more just like teaching people. It's an educational place, and I'm teaching them how their body works. I'm teaching them about research. I'm teaching them about different organ systems. And in my own health journey and in a lot of clients' health journey, like I'll often get the question of like, why am I doing everything right but nothing's working?
mm,
My answer to that question is you're doing it in the wrong order.
okay.
And so now I just teach people to do stuff in the right order based on physiology. So, like, I can't heal your gut if you're in a fight or flight trauma nervous system
Right.
state.
That's a good
Like,
point.
the supplements won't work. They'll just go right through you or they'll make you worse.
Right.
So, first step, get the nervous system right. And that also includes sleep, which we were talking about at the beginning.
Mhm,
And then after you get those foundational pieces right, then we can start to work on the gut. And I can't heal your immune system until your gut is healed.
mm,
And so then we do the gut, then we do the immune system. I can't get you to lose weight until the gut and the immune system are healed and you can actually move
mm,
things around your body. So
mhm,
then they can do weight loss. So people who are like doing all the right things and they can't lose weight, but they don't sleep, they're stressed out and they haven't healed their gut, they're not going to lose weight.
mhm.
And so it's taking people in the right order for these foundational steps of how the body works. And I call them the 8 cycles. And then after that, we have detox and then energy and then hormones. Hormones are like the last thing that I do. And so many people are just getting
Okay.
willy nilly put on hormones and
Right.
no one's checking
That's
their
so fast
gut or
too.
checking if they can detox it. And I talked to an endocrinologist recently because a client had a cyst in her pineal gland in her
Oh my
brain.
gosh.
So endocrinology is the study of glands,
Mm,
right?
right.
All glands in the body.
Yeah.
The endocrinologist was putting her on sex hormones. And I was like, well, what do you think about this cyst in the pineal gland in her brain? And they said, well, the pineal gland has nothing to do with endocrinology. I was like,
Welcome to the world of specialization, over
okay,
specialization.
yeah. And I was talking with a celebrity friend who's fairly well known in the health world, and we were discussing how that can be quite dangerous to do those things, to be prescribing hormones and signals without actually understanding how the body detoxes them or knowing what the metabolites are and can the
Wow.
liver actually clear them.
So important.
It's super important. So
It's a great example.
yeah, this is foundational functional medicine, right? It's like you have to make sure the whole
Can,
system's working.
can I, if we could dive in there a little bit more, what would you, like, what is the most foundational level that you would start encouraging someone? You kind of spoke to it, but if you
Um,
broke it down a little bit more.
Sleep, peace, nutrition, water, breath, movement.
Nice.
Those are the foundations. If you're not doing those things, you can't, like, no supplement will fix you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying breath.
We came
That's a big
into
part of what I do is
first
teaching
thing you
people.
do coming into the world, last thing you do going out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll teach people how to breathe. Breathing into the lower belly, feeling their body while they breathe, do different practices with that.
I think it's our connection to our greater self because it is what, like, you can go days without eating, without water, without shelter. You can't go very long without breath.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one person I was been working with recently who literally it's extremely, I don't want to say they can't do it because I don't believe that, but if I ask them to put their hands on their lower belly, breathe into their lower belly and hold their breath, they just like can't seem to do it.
Paradoxical breathing. I retrain people how to breathe all the
Yeah,
time.
so that's been something we're working on.
It's just because they don't know how to work that muscle. They haven't been taught how to work their diaphragm correctly, and
Yeah,
they've been living in a fight or flight state.
right. I think
They
so.
need biofeedback for it.
Yeah. So they're coming to me for all these life stress, relationship issues, and then I'm wanting to, yeah, I'm like encouraging them to focus on their breathing and that nervous system level as part of what you're speaking to of that foundation. And you can do both. I mean, we can talk about your relationship stuff too, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, if you can't come out of fight or flight, if you're not even aware that you're constantly there, it's gonna, you can't really shift the external, right, to change that.
I'm so glad that you're doing that, and I think that's what makes a really good therapist is like understanding that it has a lot more to do than story.
Hmm.
And like you have to move the energy through the body, and that's a lot of the subconscious work that I'll do, and I'm working with the mind, which is really cool because I don't need to know the story at all. We usually work with like metaphors and light meditation and stuff.
Mm.
And but I think getting people into their body so that they can actually feel what they're feeling, whether it's a somatic sensation or processing a feeling, like if they've been looping in the story in their head forever,
Hmm.
they're not going to fix it looping in their head.
Yeah, yeah, it's like an endless maze.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's what does Einstein say? It's like insanity is doing the same thing and expecting it to continue working when it's not working.
yeah, yeah. That's well said. Yeah, we need tools and techniques and practices that come out of our thinking and get find space from our thinking and those thought loops, the rumination, the going over the same issue over and over again. It's I've just gotten to a place where it's like you can just notice it, like that's thinking. It's not necessarily good or bad, but there's oftentimes like no real answer there. It's just this like spinning wheel.
Yeah.
And like the Einstein quote is a great one. Yeah, it's counterintuitive, but when that clicks for someone, it's like then they can have a whole new approach to life because then you're not stuck and trapped in the repetitive thinking.
Well, that's when I love doing stuff like parts work, which is
Yes,
like
yeah,
neurolinguistic
absolutely.
programming and other subconscious modalities. But it's a way to work with really deep trauma without getting into the story because
Mm,
it doesn't really matter what the story was. It matters what happens inside of that person,
hmm.
which is why two different people can go through the same experience and one can have a trauma and one cannot.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so
Yeah.
it's like whoever had the trauma, they had some kind of different internal experience. And so you have to address that. And
Hmm.
parts work is basically a way to go in and work with the parts of ourselves that had that experience without figuring out the logic behind it and just being like, okay, there's this part of you that feels super sad or super betrayed. Like, what do we need to do to make it feel better?
Hmm.
Doesn't really matter what the story was. How do we make it feel better right now?
Mm,
And like, I have a woman in my practice who's been struggling with a lot of major health issues and also has a lot of old trauma. And it's amazing how intertwined those are. And there's a lot of research on that.
hmm.
But basically, like, as she was focused on trying to resolve the stories of her trauma, she would get more and more stressed out and it would make her feel worse. And then when we started doing parts work, we were working with a part of her that was like a wall and a boundary, another part of her that was a wounded heart, and another part of
Hmm.
her that was carrying all the burden, which actually turned out to be her wisdom. And
Mm.
so then we were having what my mentor calls a parts party. We were just like in the mind having all these different subconscious parts have conversations with each other and help each other out and figure out how to heal each other,
Mm.
and then just doing those things that they needed to heal in her imagination. And then all of a sudden, from these imaginary acts that we were doing that weren't story related at all, she felt 1,000 times better
I love that.
because you're moving the energy that's stuck.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'll add to it. In my work with people, telling your story is often a part of it, and that can be important and healing,
Sure.
and that can come after doing more of the work you're talking about and getting in touch with our nervous system more. So
I think it's both
um,
and.
it's a both and there is a danger, like you're speaking to, if you are just on the level of story, just on the level of thoughts, and maybe you do good work there and have insight, and you are able to tell a good story, but that's disconnected from your felt experience in your body. So your nervous system is going like this, and your mind is like, everything's okay, everything's fine, I already worked through that. And there's a disconnect. And some version of that happens a lot.
Well,
Like,
give the example of like a 4-year-old getting lost in a grocery store, right?
hmm.
It's not like it was bad parenting or the parent did something traumatic and wrong and abandoned their child. It was the kid got lost. It's not
Right.
their fault. But the kid's internal experience is, oh my God, I've been abandoned by the most important person in my tribe. I'm alone. I can't trust the universe or my parent. I can't trust anybody. This
Mm.
is a traumatic experience because I'm in the bread aisle and she's in the dairy aisle. right?
It
So
could be, yeah,
it's
yeah,
like that can happen. You cannot even remember it because it happened when you were 3, but
yeah.
now you have abandonment issues. So it's like at some point we have to go in and let go of how that came to be and just be like, what does this part of you need to feel better?
That's a good example. Actually, I think it's one of my earliest memories. I got lost in the grocery store. I remember I was there with my dad, and I was like, I haven't thought about this in a long time. I was holding his hand, and then at some point, whatever my 3-year-old, 4-year-old brain, then I was holding some other guy's hand, and then my dad found me, and it was fine. And I don't think it was traumatic, but it was definitely like a shock, and I was just like, I think little kids, the world is big and confusing. They don't know what's going on, and it can be very disorienting. And then they don't have language to put to it, so it's just like, what is this? But yeah, well, good. I'm glad you brought in parts work. I think that's super important. It's something I'm doing a lot of too, and it can be so helpful because it validates your experience. You can name it as a part, and then we don't have to identify as it.
Well, and like I'll be vulnerable. I'll give an example of my own, right? So like I was doing my breakthrough series when I was doing my training with my instructor, and one of the things that came up was this part of me that felt like this little kid that was bound and gagged, right? That never happened in my
Hmm.
childhood. Energetically, it felt like it because I was
Mm-hmm.
the youngest. And so it's like you often feel like your opinion holds the least weight
Hmm.
when you're the youngest, yet you're responsible for everybody else's happiness. So it's like an interesting position to be in. And
Hmm.
so in my mind, in my subconscious mind, there was this part of myself that felt like this little kid that was restrained. And so we, in the imaginary experience, went and like released all these restraints and was just in this safe place in my mind, which was like a mountain valley.
Hmm.
And my mentor who was facilitating it was like, well, what would this, like 3-year-old version of yourself like to do
Hmm.
when you don't have any of these responsibilities or restraints? Like you're in this beautiful mountain valley. What do you want to do?
Hmm.
And the response was like, I want to look at the frogs in the lake.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden I had this reconnection to this like core part of myself that was like, oh yeah, I just liked to like admire nature. I had
Hmm.
forgotten about that part of myself. And so
Beautiful.
we just like did that in my imagination and let that part of myself like be free and just be a kid instead of be like bound by all of these responsibilities.
Hmm.
And that healed and integrated that part.
Hmm.
And as you do parts work, this is how you create holism, is you're basically taking all these parts that have been dissociated and pushed to the side to be able
Hmm.
to deal with life. You acknowledge them without feeling shame,
Hmm.
right? And integrate them, give them what they need, and then remind them who they actually are, and then give them a different job.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, they're now functional again.
Yeah. It's integrating them.
Yeah.
We're working together. We have an
Yes.
internal ecosystem that can work together.
And this is where I
Yeah.
think the collaboration between practitioners is fantastic, because some people, I'll do that work with them and then they really, really want to get into their story. I'm like,
Mhm.
great, I'm going to refer you to this awesome therapist.
Okay,
And then I
good.
send them to a therapist and they work on the
Yeah,
story. And then they'll come back to me. I'll kind of dig out some of the something that's there and then they'll
yeah,
take it to their therapist. And so it's like, and then I'll do body work to integrate them, right? So it's
yeah.
like, it's this really nice synergistic relationship that practitioners can have. And I refer people to MDs all the time when they need it, but it's really amazing how much that doesn't go the other direction.
Hmm. Right. Unfortunately,
I have
yeah.
a lot of people say, like, don't go to the chiropractor, they're going to break your neck or give you a stroke, but you actually have more of a risk of a stroke by taking an aspirin
Oh
or
wow.
getting your hair cut.
Okay. We're getting the wrong prescription medication maybe or something like
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there should be a synergism between practitioners. I don't think
I
there's any other way
agree.
to do health.
I agree 1,000%. It's been a really frustrating part of my work at times is everyone's so busy. I think, we're so overworked and but it's challenging. I mean, there's a lot of laws that I think are there with good intentions, around how keeping health information confidential. It's important. Um, but I have talked more with doctors, other therapists, but it's hard to create a team that's really working together because there's just a lot of things that make that more challenging than it should be. Um,
When I was
yeah.
choosing my path, it was because I was working in an integrative chiropractic office where they were doing functional medicine, and we had chiropractor doing functional medicine, an acupuncturist who is also doing
Yes.
functional medicine, a therapist, a craniosacral therapist, and a massage therapist, also all
Mm,
working in one
that's great.
office with an MD that they referred to. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what healthcare is. And then I got to chiropractic school and realized that it did not teach functional medicine. That was a separate thing I had to learn. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's how you integrate and implement all the tools together.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to refer people. I think in my ideal world there would be more of this like teamwork and sharing of information in a helpful way. And yeah, it's a big subject. But well, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to kind of double click on
Yeah,
cellular health. Do you just want to speak to that a little bit?
sure. Um, how deep
Like,
do you want me to go?
I guess it's just kind of like it makes sense. Like you said, it's very logical. Our cells make up our body. If our cells are healthy, our body will be healthy. Um, but then it seems abstract, and I mean, maybe some of the things you already mentioned are helping. Obviously, good sleep and nutrition, and
Okay, so I'm going to start where everybody is.
yeah,
Then we're going to zoom in, then we're going to zoom back out. I think
right,
that's the best way to see, but you have to start where people are, or else it's confusing or it's too ethereal, like you were just
yeah,
mentioning, right? Okay, so let's take fatigue.
okay,
Fatigue is something a lot of people struggle with these days. So that can come from your organ system not functioning correctly, like your adrenals are shot, which are basically your body's backup generator system. It's how we control our blood pressure and our blood sugar and some of our sex hormones. They're like a little hat that sits on top of your kidney, but it's a really important gland that controls like a nervous system state and regulates your body.
right,
If we are constantly overdriving ourselves like
mm,
we do, especially in our conventional world and especially in the States, you can very much put yourself into adrenal fatigue, and then you really
mhm,
have no backup generator for your sex hormones, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, so you can't regulate your energy well. So that's like the organ system, right? So then we go down to the cellular level of that, and we're like, okay, well, what's happening inside the cell that makes up this organ system? Now we're looking at mitochondria.
mhm,
And mitochondria is like the engine of your cell. It's like a
mhm,
battery of your cell, and they can go through something called fission and fusion, which is where they like split up and they go to different parts of the cell to do more energetic work,
mm,
and they're less efficient, or they can fuse together and they can become better mitochondria. And that's what you get out of like high intensity interval training when your body's prepared for it. You don't
mm.
want to do that when you're in adrenal fatigue, or you'll make yourself worse. So
That's good information to share.
this is
Yeah.
the whole like doing things in the right order thing. So people are like, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to go to a HIIT class, but also I haven't slept in 4 years.
Mm,
Not going to work for you. Like you have
yeah.
to go back to that foundational, we need to be sleeping and your nervous system needs to be in the right state thing. But now we're looking at the mitochondria inside the cell and we're wondering why they're dysfunctional. Well, sometimes it's just like a lack of nutrition and vitamins and stuff, but it's usually because that person's emotionally stressed out and pushing themselves too hard and doesn't replenish themselves.
Yeah.
So you can look at the nutritional component, which is, we're going back to the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain and all that stuff you learned in high school that everyone thought was useless, but it's not useless because it's how you make energy every single day
Uh-huh.
in your body. And so that's like B vitamins and carnitine and alpha lipoic acid and, you know, oxygen and water and all of these other things that go into it. But you can't out supplement a messed up nervous system.
Mm, yeah.
So if someone is running themselves into the ground for work and they're not taking time to replenish and repair, or they're going through a big emotional stressor at the same time, or they haven't taken time to like tune their frequency right, which is basically getting your mind aligned. So let's say that you're a busy parent, right? And you're taking care of everyone in the family,
Mm,
but you're not taking care of yourself and then you're resentful about it. Your mitochondria are going to respond poorly to that emotion of resentment because
mm,
emotions are actually biochemical messengers in the body and your immune system has receptors for it. There's a
yeah.
whole book about this called The Molecules of Emotion. And it's a really interesting thing where your emotions will actually affect your mitochondrial function.
Mm,
So now we're getting to emotions, right? So we're kind of
yeah.
zooming in, we're getting
Yeah.
deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So now as we get into emotions, we're also looking at frequency.
Mm,
And we're looking at the frequency that this quantum computer in your head is emitting, directing all the chemistry in your body. And so the frequency comes from your thoughts and your emotions, and like what instructions are you actually giving to the mitochondria and giving to the cells. And I had a mentor
mm,
for my Psych K certification, which is like a subconscious modality. And she said, the greatest environment you're ever exposed to is that of your own mind.
Hmm.
And I could not agree with her more. So your
Yeah.
mind, your thinking creates a soup and a chemistry in your body. And this is all of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, who is a
Yes.
Stanford
Yeah. I've
researcher.
read his book,
Yeah,
Biology of Belief. Yeah.
exactly, biology of belief. So it's like whatever your
Yeah.
belief system is, your cells are going to respond to that because the receptors on the cells are actually the intelligence of the cell. The nucleus of the cell is just a blueprint for reproducing parts.
Hmm.
And so, like, because you can take the nucleus out of a cell and it will continue functioning until the parts run out.
Hmm. Oh,
But
well, I didn't know that.
the membrane of the
Mm.
cell is actually where the intelligence is. That's where like receptors are changing and being pulled in or being pushed out or whatever, and they're able to
Mm.
respond to the environment. So if you're constantly in an environment of cortisol and stress, your body's going to be in a breakdown state and you can't heal. And if you're in an environment of stress and you're in a breakdown state and your mitochondria aren't functioning, your adrenal glands aren't going to be able to heal. And so your
Hmm.
fatigue's not going to heal. So your fatigue is actually coming from your mental, mind, energetic state. And what
Mm.
signal are you giving to your body? What are you doing in your life? Are you actually allowing time for replenishment, not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally? Like,
Mm.
where do you find peace? When do you allow yourself mental peace? And if you don't have it in your life because of circumstance, create it by sitting your butt down and meditating and giving
Yeah.
yourself some space and some peace. And then what are you doing, like nutritionally? Are you actually resourcing your body so that it can heal and repair?
Yes. Thank you. I love that. There's a lot to unpack there. So I
Yes.
can imagine someone wanting to wind it back, re-listen to parts of it. But
This is why I just made recordings for people. I'm like, go at your own pace. Here you
yeah,
go.
I really appreciate what you said about our mind as like the environment that we're in. And yeah, it's just fascinating. I mean, I think a lot of people who are more scientific materialists are looking at thoughts, emotions, beliefs as, as these like epiphenomena of our brain or something. But what you're speaking to is the synergy, the mutual interconnection, the messages we're sending coming from our beliefs, our thoughts, are having an effect on our body's having an effect on our emotions and our thoughts, and it's this interconnected system. And it's interesting, like if we go back to one of my passions, Buddhist philosophy and Eastern philosophy, there's these amazing teachings that are translated as something like everything is mind, everything you experience is your mind. And it took me a while to realize this, but it's partly like a problem with translation and semantics. I think what they're really speaking to like our conscious experience. They're not talking about surface level thoughts, right? And it's not like you can just think that you're a pink elephant and you become a pink elephant. It's not like that. It's like our consciousness is something, very deep, and it is all that we really experience. Anything you experience is a conscious experience you're having. It's happening in your consciousness. And those messages you're talking about are so important. A lot of people I work with relating to what you're saying on fatigue and stress, I've kind of like traced it back with a number of people where it's like they're a kid, then they're going to school, and they're constantly getting the message like, okay, I'm in eighth grade, I've got to study really hard and do all this tests so that I can get into ninth grade, and then I got to get A's so that I can
There's
get into
never an
10th
end
grade.
point.
Yeah, and we kind of train ourselves, unfortunately, or get trained by society, parents, teachers, to have this stress in order to motivate ourselves so that we get the A or so that we make the basketball team or so we get into college. And it works for a while and it is motivation. But the long-term cost is huge. And you're kind of like living in this world where if I'm not stressed and like trying so hard and hustling all the time, on some level there's some belief like the world is going to collapse or I'm going to be a failure or I'm going to die or
The
I'm
long-term
not going to be
cost
able
is
to.
joy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
You'll never have joy if you can never celebrate what you've done.
Yeah. 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 And to be able to have times of work, but then times of rest, like you're speaking to, and have this balance and not come from just a fundamentally different orientation where it's like any one thing, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. And you don't need to stress out about it so much.
Yes, I think the last 5 years and being an entrepreneur during that time uh, has really emphasized that, where it's like, just enjoy the journey. Like, you got to just enjoy the journey because if you're looking for some endpoint and you're expecting it to stay the same, very rarely does that happen. Like, the
Hmm.
world is,
World's moving and changing.
yeah, the only, what's that saying? Like, the only constant is change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thoroughly agree.
Yeah. And it's good. We want to find this balance where we can come home, we have a baseline of rest and relaxation, be grounded, be regulated, and we can take the action we need to take. Because there's another extreme of like, you can kind of see through the societal games and you're like, you know, could end up like, I don't need to do anything. That's maybe not the happiest place to be in either.
Well, and I think the underlying theme of all of that, that not everybody wants to look at because it's a difficult question to answer, is like, well, what is my purpose?
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of people tie their purpose to their work. But to me, my purpose is to experience the world and connection, and I'm replenished by rest.
Hmm.
And so that's my purpose. And if in my purpose I do something helpful for the world, like making these podcasts or teaching people how their bodies work, like that's just what I'm good at.
Hmm.
And what do they say? It's like your purpose isn't what you do, it's what happens to people when you do what you do.
Okay.
And so it's like my true purpose is to experience this world and connect with people and enjoy life. And life is short.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had a lot of experience with death, and like life is short and
Hmm.
fragile. And so it's like do what you can when you can. And if the last few years taught us anything, it should be that. And just
Yeah.
realizing that like nothing's going to be perfect and it's okay, and try to be good to people
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and try to do something useful.
I like that. Thanks for sharing that because it's when you talk about your purpose, there's a relaxation around that, the way you speak to it. Like it's you're not
I
saying your
used
purpose is to become like the best-selling New York Times author or whatever, this or that.
I yeah, I have a lot of students pass through my office, and I ask them the question that I wish people would have asked me. And I think a lot of people say like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, the question that I ask is, what kind of life do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone had said, would you like to stay in an office and do paperwork all the time? I'd be like, no. So, like, I would have maybe rethought it a little bit. I like what I do, but it's a lot of paperwork.
Uh-huh.
And, but if you say, what kind of life do you want? And someone says, oh, I want to travel and I want to meet a lot of people and I want to talk about ideas. Okay, well, then picking something where you're stuck being in an office probably isn't the right thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
and
so it
they
really,
have choice there, right?
yeah, it really orients you towards different things instead of like, what career do you want? It's like, well, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, if you have the privilege and resources to be listening to a podcast like this through some device and some headphones and whatever it is, like that proves that you probably, probably have running water, you probably have a lot of choice when you go to the grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's like, I'll say something like that to some people and they're like, well, what about all these people in, China or Africa or this or that? And it's like, okay, but what about you? And can we bring back to like you and what is actually serving you? And if you're staying in the rat race kind of mentality, that's probably not gonna help you, but it's not helping anyone else either. So let's come back to you.
I'm all about helping our fellow man, and we're biologically designed to have the capacity to focus on like maybe the 200 people in our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Like we weren't really supposed to know what's happening on the other side of the ocean, and everybody has their own human journey.
Mm-hmm.
And like I worked in Africa actually, and it was really
Mm.
interesting to see that some of the most disrupted areas are where people went in and tried to make interventions, whereas some of the healthiest areas are those that were allowed to exist in their tribal nature.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a really enlightening experience working there.
that's amazing. Yeah, I think that's really profound. I think that applies in all kinds of levels and ways, like in terms of ecosystems. There's a crazy history of like, I don't think this happens as much as it used to, but these scientists used to bring in a species to try to get rid of the mosquitoes, and then all of a sudden there's a million frogs in Australia or whatever.
Yep.
And these interventions often, yeah, have downstream effects that make things way worse.
I'm a big fan of just let nature be nature. Nature is more
Yeah,
intelligent than any of us. We've been through like six mass extinctions. We're in the sixth one right now.
yeah,
So it's like it's nature will do its thing whether we're here or not. And I think this
yep,
is a great concept
yeah.
to like bring people out of their like small inward eye focus, um, or even just like lifetime focus, right?
Mm,
Our lifetimes are so short. And I had an evolution teacher, and he brought in like 4.5 toilet paper rolls, and he said, "This is the history of the Earth, 4.5 billion years." Pulled off one sheet of one roll, cut out a tenth of it, and held it up with tweezers, and said, "This is the history of
like one
mankind."
one square.
One square of one roll, and cut out a tenth of it, and held it up with tweezers, and said, "This is the history of mankind."
Ah, so humbling.
Right? And so then you realize you're like, okay, like, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff has happened in the last few decades, the last few centuries. whatever, and it's a blip in time.
Amen.
And so it's just like, just try to be a good person, do your best in the world, don't worry about what you can't control, and do what you can control.
Phew, there's a lot of wisdom in that. Yeah.
It's so much more peaceful.
Yeah.
Like if you spend your whole life worrying about stuff that you can't control, you're going to ruin your biology and make other people around you kind of miserable.
Absolutely. That is a big part of almost everyone I work with, recognizing what's in your control and what's outside your control and having that surrender, going back to the serenity prayer.
Grant me
Yeah.
the serenity to understand the things I can control and to understand the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. And then there can be this big release of like, because there's always we take on responsibility and blame ourselves, or that person's upset at me, so I did something wrong. And yeah, there can be a way to self-reflect, but over time, it's like you've taken on way too much. Back to the point around this just popped in my head, but I remember I think this happened less because it thankfully got a lot of press. But there were these. I remember noticing these big bins popped up like in the grocery store parking lot. It was like donate all your old clothes here, and then it turned out that they were taking all these clothes donations from like America and like Western countries and like dumping them in Africa. And I think they thought they were helping, but it like totally destroyed the local industry making clothes themselves.
Oh, I
And it
saw
had this like really
a
negative
lot.
impact.
I saw a lot of people there wearing like sorority shirts and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I agree
It's
with
not
that.
actually helping
It
them.
disrupts their whole economy.
Jeez.
So well intentioned, and not to say that those things don't work in some ways. And also, there is a component of like letting ecosystems do their thing.
Yeah, and letting other people do their thing, and yeah, taking care of what you can control. And back to that.
Just take care of your tribe, be a good
Yeah,
person.
unfortunately, it's a bit paradoxical, but I've just kind of learned this and seen this in my life. Like some people are very motivated to do good in the world and beautiful motivation, you know, all blessings to them. But then, like we're speaking, like sometimes it's not having good impacts in the long run, and it's helpful to like really look at your motivation more carefully and like slow down and like is this what's going on there? Are you really wanting to help other people, or are you trying to find meaning and significance for yourself through all this stuff? And is yeah,
That was a
kind of
whole.
neglecting yourself in this pursuit, and like it can become very convoluted.
There's a weird ego death I went through in traveling because I worked in Peru, Tanzania, and Thailand, all very
Mm,
different cultures. And in every single culture, like I thought I was going to be going down as this volunteer to really help,
that's
right?
amazing. So you did that.
Well, what you learn is that the best way that you can help is find someone local there who's doing what you approve of and support their efforts.
Mm,
Don't come in as an outsider trying to change somebody else's
mm,
culture.
doesn't work.
No,
Didn't work in Iraq. Didn't work
no,
like
it
so many
just does
places. Yeah.
not work. And so it was this very humbling experience of realizing that, like, you basically break your savior ego model
That, yeah.
and you let go of being the savior and you just come to support and you let them save themselves.
Mm,
And so it's like you just, so in Peru, I went there to go teach, and then I realized that they were all much better teachers than me because they do their math differently,
ah,
and like I had to like relearn how to do math to teach there.
oh, wow.
And instead, I built a vegetable garden,
Oh, nice.
and I left a garden at the school, and
Oh,
that felt great to leave something behind. And when I went
mm,
to Africa, I was supposed to be teaching students. Nothing in Africa goes the way that you plan, and so they were all on like vacation, even though I've been coordinating it for like 2 years.
jeez.
And then I got there, I ended up teaching the teacher,
Oh,
and that
okay.
was way better, right?
Oh,
Because then
cool.
I helped her develop curriculum, and she stayed and taught that from their culture, which she will understand better than I will ever
I love that.
understand.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like all of them have these different components. And even like when I was in Thailand, right? Like I'm not going to change the way they do their medical system. I'm not going to change the way they take care of their animals, but I'm going to support the people that are doing it in the way that I think is good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to not support the things that I don't think is are good. But also I went through this like cultural awakening where I was in places where people were doing things that I like very much disagreed with, but I was the one
Mm,
that was out of culture. So
mhm,
I was the one with the problem and everybody else was fine.
mm.
And so it was like I had to change my internal state to be like, okay, well, here, like even though this is a fundamental moral for me at home, here it's not the same.
Okay. Do you have an example, like a specific?
Um, okay, you can cut this out if you want, but um, yeah, so like I used to, so in Africa, there's a lot of Muslim culture, right?
Hmm.
and women are often wearing full burqa. And I used to
Hmm.
be like very against this as a
So which
woman.
part of Africa were you in?
I was in Tanzania,
Okay.
so Dar es Salaam has a lot of that, and I used to be at the point where I was like, this isn't fair to women, right?
Hmm.
Um, However, I met women who were, you know, top of level in their work. Or like I had a friend who was working in Palestine and she met this woman who was a CEO and wore full burqa. And her response was, well, I think you American women live a double standard because you have to be beautiful and good at your job. I just have to be good at my job. And I was like, oh gosh, you're right.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And there was times where in Africa, because I stood out like a sore thumb. There was times where like I wanted to disappear.
Hmm.
And so I got this whole other understanding of like how nice it can be to be able to do that. And it gave me this
Interesting.
whole other perspective on it where I'm like, okay, I just want people to have choice. Like
Yeah.
I don't like you can choose whatever you want. I just want you to have choice.
Yeah.
And but it very much was enlightening for me to realize that my perspective was wrong.
Hmm. That's an interesting example. Yeah, it's a big subject, but yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and to each their own, but I think everyone should have their choice to be aligned with what they're aligned with.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think choice is good. It's a big subject, but I think having that humility and checking the savior complex, and it's good to do good things, and if you can have good intentions and contribute in some way, that's awesome. So it's a both and again, but it's good to check and be humble and admit all that we don't know and don't understand, which is a huge amount. It's way more than what we do know and understand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, just gonna bring it back to the health
Yeah.
and that stuff, and I think I really appreciate your point around we have to take responsibility for our own health, our own well-being. We need to think critically. And I also acknowledge that that's tough and there's pressure there and there's a lot of societal forces and huge massive corporations, of millions or billions of dollars to advertise and promote and just bring it back to like the grocery store. I went to Whole Foods, which I think of as like a healthy grocery store, and I was like, my life is feeling stressful. I'm feeling really busy. I'm going to buy some of these prepackaged meals and then I'll just have a meal in my fridge. And so I got a few of them and then I ate one. I'm like, man, this tastes terrible. And then I was going to open up the second one and, I was like, okay, let me read through the ingredients. And it had, canola oil, gluten, enriched wheat flour, preservatives. It just had all the stuff that I know isn't good for me. And luckily my health is strong enough where I can eat, I can eat that stuff now and again. It's not going to like throw me off or anything, but it's not what I want to be my regular diet. And I was like, man, I should have looked at this before I bought it. Why do I live in a world where I have to read through the ingredients before I buy everything? And I kind of had this whole thing going on. I'm like, I just kind of came back to like, yeah, I'm going to take responsibility for myself. Um, and this is just the world we're in. And I'm going to have to, if I want to really take care with what I put into my body, I have to take the responsibility to read the ingredients and make intelligent choices. And maybe that means slowing down in the grocery store. It means cooking more. It means maybe doing less work. Maybe it means earning less money. Um, we're all doing the best that we can do. We're juggling all these things. I would like to be in a society where it was simplified and there was more healthy food that didn't cost a bunch more. And I think part of what's going on, back to the thing around incentives, our government's been subsidizing big agriculture, big pharma, fertilizers, pesticides for so long. Part of the reason organic food costs more, healthier food costs more, is because of that our government subsidizing this stuff, right? It's not a free market.
Well, my question is, does it
So
cost more or does fake food cost less?
okay.
Because I think food costs exactly what it should cost, and I think fake food costs less. And we've been
Interesting.
trained that food costs less because you're buying fake stuff that was pooped out of a machine. So let's just be real. But if you buy something that was grown with love and intention and resources, it should cost money and you should
Mm,
pay that farmer money.
mm.
And
I
so
like that. I appreciate that.
yeah, like just like you used to bring a chicken to the shaman to help heal you, you should bring a chicken or you should bring an offering to the farmer that's giving you food.
Mm,
There used to be a barter and exchange, and
mm,
so even like, and people are like, well, what about gifting societies like Burning Man? Okay, well, I've been to Burning Man, and you have to offer a service at Burning Man. That's the whole point of it.
yeah,
Like
there's
you don't have to exchange a service in that moment with that person, but karma will come back because you're offering a service to the playa. That's the whole reason it's sustainable
mhm,
with no money, right? It's a whole
right,
community where there's no money. It's quite
right.
cool. Um, but coming back to your component of the grocery store, so For someone listening to this and maybe this is their first exposure to this is a lot of information. And
Yeah.
there can be a component of grief that we go through where they're like, what? The world isn't what I was told?
Mm,
I know that's scary. It's okay. Like,
mm,
you'll be okay. And if we can come to have this understanding again, because there's a component of taking responsibility that can come from two mindsets.
mhm,
There's taking responsibility of, okay, I'm going to empower myself with knowledge. I'm a capable human. I'm going to figure this out. You see that as a challenge, that's empowering, that's healthy for your body.
mm.
It's healthy for your body to have a challenge. If you take it as, oh my God, this is one more responsibility and I'm responsible for everything and the world is so hard, that's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
That's a victim mindset that's not healthy for your body.
Yeah, yeah.
So it depends on how you take on that responsibility. So if you can take this as empowerment because you're learning what to do so that you can respond correctly and have the outcome be good, it's a much healthier place to come from. But there's a lot of
Mm,
history in everything that you're talking about with our food industry where, basically the medical industry got bought out by the Rockefellers in the early 1900s, and they totally changed the medical model with the Flexner Report, and all the natural medical schools got pushed out. And then in 1948, the American Heart Association basically took money from Procter and Gamble, which is Crisco, and then all of our health stuff changed, and now like heart issues are one of the leading causes of health issues in the United States.
mhm.
And then in 1985, basically the same company that used to market cigarettes took over General Foods and Kraft.
Right. Like
So
Philip Morris and stuff.
correct,
Yeah,
yes. So
that's a
there's
wild story.
when you actually look at
And
like
no one knew that back then.
no,
Like,
like
no one
as
talked about it.
when you look at who owns what, which most people don't have the time to research, like,
Yeah,
but to me, I like to know how the world works because
yeah.
to me, like your intercellular ecosystem and our financial economy, they're the same ecosystems. And
Mm,
like if you just understand how ecosystems work, you can understand everything. And so if you realize that these industries that don't necessarily have your best interest in mind because they're for profit are now responsible for things like natural flavor, which is basically like, or perfume, right? Like those are just labels that mean there's a bunch of chemicals that we're not going to tell you. And
mhm,
so if you can start to look at your labels and understand these things, you realize that like we're actually at times we're in a little bit of a food desert, and my heart goes out to
mm.
people where it's like the only thing they have near them is like a 7-Eleven, right?
Oh,
That is literally a food desert because you're walking in, there's no actual food there.
that's really sad. Yeah,
It is, it's a thing. It's a literal thing our world's dealing with. Like sometimes
yeah.
places in Africa had more real food
Uh-huh.
than we do here,
Right.
which is a
It's so
weird
primitive.
concept. Yeah, because it's actual food. But they also now, like the Western culture has permeated all these other countries. And like, the Philippines and stuff really struggle with pollution because they've been um, influenced by Western culture, whereas like not so long ago, everything was wrapped in a banana leaf and they just throw it on the ground and it would degrade. But now they're throwing plastic on the ground and it's like
Yeah,
one
it's
of
so
the most
sad.
polluted areas in the world. And a lot of them have thyroid issues. Like I
Mm,
have team members that are working there, and I have like I get information about the environments that they're in, and I find it really interesting. But when we can start to realize that these different monopoly corporations own different things, and we can start to research, okay, like how can I support my local farmer? So
mm.
easy way to do it: go to the farmers market,
Yeah,
go to your
yeah.
local grocery store that is run by people who know your name and
Mhm,
like has like rules on what they'll allow in the store. Natural Grocers is one here.
mhm.
I'm sure you can find one elsewhere. Whole Foods does have better stuff than like Safeway sometimes, and also they've kind of been bought out a little bit. So you got to
Yeah.
look at like who's funding what and who owns what. And if you just go to the small local markets and you support small local businesses, not only will you save the culture of your community and actually have friends, but like go to a butcher. Like butchers still exist. You can go get really clean meat from the butcher. It
That's
doesn't have to
amazing.
be at the grocery
I wanna
store.
do more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you can do like a cow sharing program and all of these different ways where you can get like real clean food from your local communities. And if you just think that way of like, okay, like where can I spend my local dollar? Well, I have this meat in front of me that has no label. I have no idea where it came from, and it's wrapped in plastic on styrofoam. And I have this other meat that's labeled as grass fed. It doesn't quite say grass finished, but it says grass fed. And these are my two options. Well, let me spend my dollar on the grass fed one so I
Mhm.
support the people that are treating their cows at least a little bit right.
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like just thinking logically like that. And then that's why I built the whole wellness evolution community thing, is so people can come in and I can teach them how to read labels and I can teach them what to look for. And it is this slow learning over time, just like anything else. You're learning a skill, you're learning a language, but once you learn that
Mm.
language, you don't have to learn it again. And so it's just a
Hmm.
place that you can come and be like, okay, I do have to read labels. This is annoying. Now that I'm at the place of
Yeah.
acceptance, of grieving that our society is not as honest as I once thought,
Mm.
and that soda is the biggest thing that people buy, and maybe I shouldn't be drinking
Yeah.
that on the regular, and I should drink water, and I should
Yeah.
drink enough water that my water-based vehicle can thrive on that. Now that I've come to this place of acceptance, let me learn how to read these labels so I can feel empowered, so I know how to respond, so that I have control of my world.
Hmm. I like that. I like how you said it's a learning. It takes time. You don't have to figure everything out all at once. You can make small changes that are consistent every time can make
I've been
huge
changing
change.
my diet and my lifestyle for 10 years. It took me a
Yeah.
long time to change all my brands. I'm still trying to find clean makeup. It's
Mm.
like that's a thing for women
Oh, really?
and guys too. Like most of us, like women especially, we put like what is it? It's like 112 chemicals on your face before you leave the house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Jeez.
Oh, makeup's a whole other beast.
Um,
But I finally found some that are like plant-based and stuff. So like I'm working on that. And not to say like you can also not use it, but some people like to use it. So it's like,
mhm.
but I also like I don't really go and get my hair dyed. It's just
Mm.
like but there are natural hair dyes that you can use, but I try to limit the amount of toxins that I put on my body, but also like don't drive yourself insane with it. Like
Yeah.
I'm still, not everything I own is made of perfectly of like cotton and linen, but I try to when I can. So
Mm.
it's just starting to build the awareness and then like slowly transforming your life over and like start with the simple things. Get an air filter and get a water filter.
Mm.
Start there. You plug
That's
them
nice
in and
and
you
simple.
forget about them. And
Yeah.
like and you just all of a sudden you have so many less toxins in your body.
Yeah. That's good advice. Yeah, we can pick. I like what you said about too about choice. We can have choice. We can choose our battles. It's not about being perfect,
No.
but it is important to have the knowledge and information so you can make a actual choice. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, have choice again by having
Yeah.
awareness.
There is something to. Remember when I first went to a Chinese medicine doctor and an Ayurvedic doctor? We were talking about like this digestive fire, and you have to get your fire going. And I used to be pretty underweight and low energy, and so it's been a long journey for me too with health and wellness. But there is something to like when you attend to these fundamentals and you do build up your energy and you get to a place of feeling good and feeling energized. You are then able to digest stuff that once in a while that isn't so bad and it won't throw you off as much. I think there's kind of a wisdom I got from working with the acupuncturist and Chinese medicine doctor.
I also think
So,
of it as your ability to digest life, whether that
mm,
is physical material that you're putting in your body or processing the things that are happening to you in life and actually digesting them and integrating them. So I think taking care of that inner fire goes to both of those.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good metaphor. Maybe it's more than a metaphor. It's a good way to look at it though. But yeah, here's I print out these statistics beforehand. Um, I'm just gonna share a few of them, and we can just
Sure.
kind of get your feedback. But here's one: 74% of Americans are overweight or obese right now. 74%. 50% of American adults have diabetes or prediabetes. In 1950, it was 1%. So I mean, that's like just like taking that one thing where we were in 1950 versus now, just with that one metric of diabetes. Like, man, we are really our society as a whole is not doing well. It's pretty sick.
So remember that stat I mentioned in 1948 of where the American Heart Association took money from basically Crisco?
Hmm.
That's like plant derived vegetable oils. And so these are the oils that make your cells not work correctly because it's made
Mm.
of trans fats and they're synthetic. And so basically your cell can't process them. And so all of a sudden your cells can't function because they're trying to process all these things that aren't real food. And so when we wonder why all of our obesity statistics have gone up, it's because we're consuming all of this stuff that isn't actually food.
Hmm.
And our body doesn't know what to do with it,
Our
so it
body,
stores it.
yeah, our body doesn't see it as food, or
No.
because we
And our
didn't evolve.
metabolism doesn't understand it.
We didn't evolve with it.
No.
It's a new products that are introduced in the last 50 or 100 years or so.
Yep.
When you're talking about seed oils in particular,
Pretty much, yeah. It
so
just
can
literally makes your cell not work correctly.
okay. Do you just want to list what like some of the main ones are?
Oh, canola oil, also known as rapeseed oil, um, safflower oil, sunflower oil, basically any of those just like
Any of
feed
those?
oils, cottonseed oil.
Anything called vegetable oil,
Yeah, pretty much vegetable oil.
soybean oil.
So like the best things, so instead of just listing all the things that people can't have, yeah, right. Oh, soy oil is a whole other thing. Plus, it's all genetically modified now, so it's like even more not real food.
Yeah.
And then that's all the stuff that's subsidized, right? That's why people have such issues with soy and corn as irritants
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But what you can focus on is coconut oil, um, olive oil, avocado oil, and like tallow. So I use beef
Oh, yeah.
tallow a lot for cooking,
Nice.
because you can't cook with olive oil. It doesn't have a high enough smoke point. A lot of people
Mm,
make that mistake. Olive oil is for like your salad dressing. Like
mm,
keep it cold. Um, it's great omega 3s as long as you're not doing it at a high temperature. Avocado oil is better for cooking. Coconut oil is better for cooking, but beef tallow is great for it. And then you're getting all the rich vitamin A based healthy animal fats as well. And then I know a lot of people out there are like vegetarian and vegan, and I always get these questions, so I'll just answer it right now. I'm I think finding what works for your body is what's most important. Some people do really well with vegetarianism, and that's great. And I understand their ethics with animals and all those things.
mhm,
But at the same time, like if you look at how many people one single cow feeds versus the amount of animals that die in processing enough soy to make an impossible burger, which is highly inflammatory anyway,
mm.
the death rate is actually more in the soy. So
You're
it's
talking about like all the little insects and bugs and
insects, mice, rabbits, like they all just get destroyed when they're
oh,
processing the
geez.
soy if you've ever watched the farming process. So there's like a component of like if we can just understand regenerative agriculture
Mm,
and aim towards that, like evolutionarily as a biologist, right? Like
mm,
I took anthropology, I study skeletons, like
mm.
I think we have certain forms of teeth for certain reasons. It's how
Yeah.
we determine what
Yeah.
an animal's diet is in
The
anthropology.
teeth. Yeah.
Yeah, and in
Yeah.
like evolutionary biology. And I know a lot of people believe, like I do think that we are meant to eat a lot of plants, and I think that it feeds your microbiome. But what I find as a practitioner in care is it depends on the state that people are in. So if you're in a healthy state,
Mhm,
like a more vegetarian, slightly omnivore diet can be great.
mm.
And if you think evolutionarily, like we wouldn't really get meat all that much unless we had a really successful hunt,
Right.
right? So it's like we'd pretty
It's
much
all the time.
we'd be foraging most of the time, and then we'd have our hunt sometimes, and that would be like this wonderful thing where we ate all the parts and all the organ meats, and we sucked the marrow out of the bones, and
Mm,
we did all of these things which are highly nutritious. um, Now veganism is another approach, but what I'll find is it's great for a cleanse, but if somebody gets sick or they get hit
mm,
with a lot of stress or they get like mold poisoning or something, they don't have the digestive fire to process that amount of
mhm,
plant material. And plants have their own defense mechanisms and can be irritating, like lectins. There's books about this called like the longevity paradox and
mm,
stuff like that. And so it just depends on what state your body is in. So if it's in a highly sensitive, highly irritable state, you might not be able to process that amount of plant material. And you might actually need something that's more easily digestible, like slow cooked meat, because we are meat creatures. If you want to build a meat creature or you're pregnant or something, it can be helpful to also consume protein
mm,
from a meat creature.
mhm,
And this is why, like in olden days, like evolutionary days, if someone was pregnant, they would be offered some of the hunt, right?
mm.
Because they need that nutrient
Right.
more than
Yeah,
somebody
it makes
else.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on the state that your body is in. And I think we're meant to oscillate over time, and we're meant to go in and out of ketosis and all these things. So it's about variety and listening to your body. And I'm going to go back to that very simple statement of like, if your stomach hurts, don't eat it.
Mm,
Like
mhm,
the body's actually pretty loud. It's just people think that their symptoms are bad and they're supposed to squash them down and not listen to them,
mm,
when really like the point of health is to not have symptoms, it's to listen to them.
mm.
So like if you keep eating cheese and Doritos and Twinkies and your health keeps being bad,
Yeah.
that might be why. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that cheese is inherently bad. I'm just saying that you might be in a state where you're inflamed by it. And
Mm,
so if it's making your stomach hurt, don't
right.
eat it, and eat the
Listen to the
things that
body.
don't make you hurt.
Mhm.
Listen to your body.
Listen to ourselves and yeah. Yeah, if our stomach's hurting, that's a good information to take in.
Yeah, so sorry, that was a tangent, but I
Yeah,
thought it was a relevant thing to bring up of like
I
whatever
appreciate
state
it.
you're in determines what's best for you.
What would you say, like, if someone's listening and they're committed vegan
Sure.
and they're doing it for good reasons, for animal welfare, what advice would you give them if they were going to stay a vegan based on, your knowledge of health?
find a way to get the vitamins that are not available in the foods that you're eating, like
Mm.
B12,
Mm.
because it's necessary for cellular reproduction.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's at least one thing that someone can do.
Hmm.
I agree
And
with you.
chew your food really well,
Chew the food well.
because if like
Find easier to digest foods.
yeah, like it's not the easiest diet to digest.
Hmm. Yeah. I kind of agree with what you're saying. It can be good as a cleanse. It can be good for a period of time. Um, but there's a lot of beautiful reasons to do it. But also, I think we have evolved with animals and animal products. And
Well, we used to have a beautiful communal relationship with animals
hmm.
where we might consume eggs or we might consume milk or something, but that animal was our friend and our family member.
Hmm.
So it just depends on the relationship that you have with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe getting more in touch with local farmers market,
Hmm.
even a butcher. That makes sense to me. It's a tough one for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we've been very removed from the whole food process, right? You just go buy your ground meat and go home. You don't think about it. You forget to like thank the cow.
Right.
So like when you're eating your food, try to like have some gratitude towards the animal that is nourishing you, and try to have, you know, gratitude as someone who's consuming, no matter what you're consuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The gratitude is huge. Back to the messages we're sending to ourselves. You
Hmm.
know. I'm just going to read one last statistic and then probably have to wrap up because of our time. But in Japan, 3% of children are obese. And in our great country, United States of America, 50%. And so 50% versus 3%, it's not like we are lazier than Japanese people. It's not like we want to be fat. It's not like we, are consciously choosing that. But to me, that is just like makes me stop, slow down, take a breath, and like I want to speak to like that societal level where we're out of balance and we're not healthy, and it's not the fault of these individuals. It's certainly not the fault of a child. And we need to look at like the systems and the government and the big industry that is creating this.
I mean, I went to a kid's birthday party once and there was not water at that birthday party. There was
Mm.
juice and soda, and that
Mm.
was the only thing there. I couldn't find water. So, no, it's not the kid's fault. And also, there's a bunch of chemicals that are legal in the United States that are illegal in Europe and Japan and
Mm.
other countries. So,
This-
we just like if you look at like their McDonald's and our McDonald's, like there's completely different ingredients.
oh man,
Yeah.
that's scary.
Uh-huh. And so this is the thing that our um, country is working on changing right now, but there's a lot of monopolies to unpack and to shift, and it's taking some heavy lifting. But I'm glad that the awareness is there, and this is why it's just so much more important to read labels here. That's why people can like go to Italy and they can eat the pasta and they come back here if
Yeah,
they don't do well, or like I can eat the cheese in South America, but I struggle with the cheese here.
yeah. A lot
And
of people talk about that when they travel.
and so it's just like it's our agricultural practices and our farming practices and who owns the industries.
Yeah, I'm glad more and more people are waking up to these facts, acknowledging them.
The
My
most power
family
we
is,
have is
yeah,
voting with your dollar.
yeah. I just remember my family used to like make fun of me because I was gluten free, and now they're like coming around. They're like, okay, we're seeing the science. So there's a cultural shift, and so it is taking a long time, but I'm hopeful that in the next decade, let's say, there will be some big shifts that happen.
Well, I think it's just listening to your body, right? It's
Mm.
probably like you felt better when you did it.
Right,
And so,
right,
but I think
exactly.
a lot of people they're only used to listening to their body when it has a megaphone and it's screaming at them through the megaphone, which is symptoms, versus like being a little brain foggy or being fatigued or having a headache or having your hormones really off during your cycle or feeling like you're not lifting as heavy or just feeling like lethargic and unmotivated. Those are all your body's whispers.
Yes, yes.
Listen to the whispers and then you won't get to the scream. And if you can listen to the whispers, you'll realize, oh man, like I ate that sandwich at lunch and I am actually kind of bloated. Maybe I didn't do so well with the bread.
Hmm.
How can I turn that into a sandwich bowl or salad next time?
Right. Yeah, do some experiments, try some things out.
Try some
Try
stuff
something
out.
different.
Be curious. Be like, why did
Yeah.
that make me bloat? Let me see if I can change it.
Yeah.
But like, nobody, like, no doctor can fix your health if you're not paying attention to it.
Hmm. That's so true. And it's true with mental health, with therapy, with personal growth. Yeah, you've got to be engaged. It's a co-creation. You have to be actively engaged.
Yes, my favorite people to work with are those that do the homework.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was super informative and really grateful.
Thank you for having me. This was a great discussion.